What you are about to experience is out of this world. Politics, history, and of course, a lot of entertainment. It's time to rock it with the Docket.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with our very 111th episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. And if you are excited to be here as well, make sure to go down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so then you never miss one of my videos. So the Democrats are in deep trouble as it comes to the midterm elections, as some races that seem to be Democratic strongholds are now getting tighter. Now, polls change all the time, and there is something that can be truly unpredictable. Along with that, the polls can be 100% wrong. A candidate can be up by 5 points in the polls, and people will say, wow, that candidate is up by so many points, we don't really need to go out and vote. This should not be your attitude. All these elections are so close that I encourage you to vote. Whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, everyone should try to make a plan to vote. You have a right to do it, and you can change the course of history with your vote. And yes, your vote does count, no matter how many people tell you that it doesn't. Now, before we dive deeper into this episode, I have to say that I hate making predictions about different elections, because if I get them wrong, then I look like an idiot. But I want to talk about some of these important races that could determine who will control the Senate. Along with that, I want to show you the spike that Republicans are seeing right now in the polls. Just know, I might be wrong, and I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. Let's take a look at these different Senate races by using my favorite website, 270 to Win, which makes it so I can change the colors so then you can see who I think is going to win that certain seat. Along with that, I'm also looking at the polls from Real Clear Politics. Remember, these polls are going to change before Election Day. So I think it would be smart for you to also look at these polls as well as Election Day gets closer. So the big states that we are looking at are Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Nevada was a Democratic stronghold as Cortez Masto had a commanding lead. At one point in the poll, she was up by 9, 8, and 7 points. And as of right now, she is losing to Laxalt by 1 point. I believe that this race is going to be extremely close. Now, there is a possibility that the governor's race could push Laxalt over the edge as Lombardo, a Republican, is leading in the governor's race. Still, there may be a recount, but I do think that in the end, Laxalt will take this seat. Now let's go to Arizona. Mark Kelly is extremely popular, and we see that in the polling as every single poll that we see shows that Kelly is in the lead. However, we can see that the polls are getting closer as the election day approaches. Right now, Kelly is only up by 2.4 points, which is close, but I don't think it's close enough for Blake Masters to make up. The governor's race could help Blake Masters, but I just don't think it will because Kari Lake is a force to be reckoned with. She's incredible. So I think Kari Lake will win the governorship and Blake Masters will lose the seat in the Senate, leaving Kelly to be the senator still. But I still think it'll be closer than we thought. Now let's go down to the South, where we have the wacky Senator Warnock taking on football player Herschel Walker. Now at first this one wasn't even close, as there was a stretch in the polls where it looked like Warnock was just running away with it. As from September 22nd to November 16th, Warnock was in the lead. Yes, that lead was slimming down a little bit, but he still had a pretty decent lead. Then out of nowhere, Walker just burst through and has now taken the lead, as he is only up by 1.4 points. Once again, we have another close one, and once again the governor's race could decide this race as well, as Governor Brian Kemp is destroying Stacey Abrams in the polls, and this will help Walker out a ton. So I believe that this seat will flip. It shouldn't have gone blue in the first place, but hopefully it will go red and stay that way. So I will make Georgia red. Now we go to Pennsylvania. This race is different from the rest because John Fetterman is, I think, the worst candidate in this election as he is extreme and a Bernie Sanders wannabe. However, on the flip side, Dr. Oz really isn't that popular as well, as he has a lot of baggage and he is unlikable. However, the biggest problem with John Fetterman is that before the Democratic primary even took place, he had a stroke, which was a terrible thing, and of course I wish him well and a long and happy life, just not in the Senate. As Fetterman, because of his stroke, can't understand speech as well as he used to. This was made clear as Oz and Fetterman took the debate stage. Fetterman was able to have a monitor that wrote everything that the moderator and Oz said. Still, it was a rough thing to watch, as Fetterman struggled. He started off the debate by saying good night to everyone. Here's that video.
Hi, good night everybody. I'm running to serve Pennsylvania. He's running to use Pennsylvania. Here's a man that spent more than $20 million of his own money to try to buy that seat. I'm also having to talk about something called the Oz rule, that if he's on TV, he's lying. He did that during his career on his TV show. He's done that during his campaign about lying about our record here. And he's also lying probably during this debate.
It's not ableist, it is just factual. The man can't serve, and he needs to recover from his stroke. The Senate is just going to hurt him more as more stress is added onto him. And we see that voters are seeing this too, as after the debate, how to change your vote was trending in Pennsylvania, and Oz jumped up by 3 points, and has the momentum going into the election. But Oz is still trailing by 1.5 points. Once again, this is going to be another close election. And the governor's race in Pennsylvania could also help Fetterman, but that governor's race is getting close as well. I think people will start to realize that Fetterman is too ill to represent the state, so I will give this one to Oz. So according to my graph, Republicans will take over the Senate 52-48. Once again, I might be wrong about this, so don't come at me in the comments. This is just a prediction. I'm just doing this for fun. Now it's time for a speed round. Tudor Dixon is catching up to Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan's governor's race. I don't think that Tudor will win, but it's getting closer. Oregon could get a Republican governor for the first time since 1987. It is getting so bad in Oregon that Nike co-founder donated $1 million to the Republican candidate Drazen. Things are not looking good for Democrats. All these races are getting closer and closer, and the Republicans have the momentum. There is a real possibility that we could see a giant red wave. Democrats are scared. They are expressing their concern to Joe Biden, as Chuck Schumer was caught on a hot mic talking about how the Senate race in Georgia is where Democrats are really going downhill. The clip doesn't have the best audio, but luckily it has the words written out so you can just read that. Here's that clip.
That seat, we're in danger of that seat. So no fun. We're in close. That seat. Well, it looks like the debate didn't hurt us too much in Pennsylvania as of today, so that's good. And we're picking up steam on that. Yeah. Right. Didn't go out. We did a phone call, The state we'll see the state will go down. It's hard to believe, but they will go for the.
Why is it that all of these races are flipping? Because the Republicans are focusing on the main problems that are affecting voters right now. The Republicans are focusing on inflation, spiking crime, and immigration, while Democrats are focused on climate change, healthcare, and abortion. Listen, I live in Michigan, and the amount of abortion ads that I see are annoying as cuss. Over and over and over again. Democrats thought that the abortion issue was going to change the election, but what we are seeing from the polls right now, it's not true. More people are feeling the effects of high inflation than the effects of abortion. People are going to the grocery store and saying, wow, prices are super high. I don't even know if I can afford this. They aren't saying, oh, I need to vote for Democrats because of abortion. I'm sorry, but people care more about the money in their pocket than abortion. In the great words of James Carville, a strategist for Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid. The Democrats are losing because they have bad ideas, and their party has failed so badly for the past 2 years. They need something to turn it around. What could they do? Oh, I have an idea. Create the idea in people's minds that this election is going to be stolen. Oh, you thought it was just Republicans that denied elections. You're wrong. Republicans are the only ones that get in trouble for saying that an election was stolen. They get banned off Twitter, they get thrown into Facebook jail, all that good stuff. However, Democrats are able to walk around and say, well, of course the 2016 election was rigged. It happened on The View, which I swear this show is going to kill me. As Ted Cruz was on The View and he was claiming that The View hosts haven't pressured Democratic election deniers like they have Republican election deniers. Here's Ted Cruz, and then Whoopi Goldberg.
Is the president today? There's a lot of folks in the media that anytime... Hold on, I'm answering exactly that question. There are a lot of folks in the media that try to, anytime a Republican is in front of a TV camera, try to say the election was fair and square and legitimate. You know who y'all don't do that to? You don't do it to Hillary Clinton, who stood up and said Trump stole the election.
Storm the Capitol. They didn't try to kill my former
Abrams, who said that the election was stolen. They sat here and said it was illegitimate, and you guys were fine with it. Okay, so it's illegitimate when Republicans win, but not when Democrats win.
No, you know.
Did you hear what Whoopi Goldberg just said there? She said the election was stolen. Is she saying that the 2016 election was rigged? Is Whoopi Goldberg now a threat to our democracy? Now, I have talked about how Democrats have claimed that elections were stolen for a long time in the past. And I'm now going to let Ted Cruz explain it to you because I think he does a fantastic job.
Okay,
took the call. As did Stacey Abrams.
All right.
She sat there while Donald Trump was getting
Clinton
sworn
says
in.
Trump is an illegitimate president. Hillary Clinton says the election is stolen from you. Hillary Clinton in 2002, George W. Bush was selected, not elected. Joe Biden, Al Gore was elected president.
When he pulled out that piece of paper, you knew he meant business. I am sad that Ana Navarro ruined it, but you get the point. Democrats have continued to claim that elections from the past and the election in the future are going to be rigged in some way. Don't get me wrong, Republicans have done this too. And I will say it for the 400th time. January 6th was terrible, and it should have never have happened. However, I hate the idea that the Democrats somehow have this moral high ground when it comes to asking if an election is legitimate. As right now, Democrats are creating a pathway to say that this election was stolen, and even the next presidential election will be stolen as well. Hillary Clinton, our favorite election denier, made this clear on Twitter as she made a little video. Take a listen to this.
I'm here to highlight something that is keeping me up at night. And I know this group really understands what I'm about to say. I know we're all focused on the 2022 midterm elections, and they are incredibly important. But we also have to look ahead, because you know what? Our opponents certainly are. Right-wing extremists already have a plan to literally steal the next presidential election. And they're not making a secret of it. The right-wing controlled Supreme Court may be poised to rule on giving state legislatures, yes, you heard me that correctly, state legislatures the power to overturn presidential elections. Just think, if that happens, the 2024 presidential election could be decided not by the popular vote or even by the anachronistic Electoral College, but by state legislatures, many of them Republican-controlled.
Let's play a game. Let's say that Donald Trump made that exact video after the 2020 election. How quickly would the media come out and say, "Oh no, he is threatening our democracy. Oh no, our poor democracy." Undermining elections is bad unless you are the quote-unquote good guys. Because they are also trying to stop fascism as well, because apparently that's what the Republicans are. As there was an article that I think is the funniest thing that I've seen all week, because it is one of the stupidest things I have ever seen in my entire life. As Matthew Dowd, a former GOP strategist and a one-time Democratic candidate for lieutenant governor, made the comparison of this election to Nazi Germany 1935. Just take a listen to this.
Well, I mean, I'm not calling, I'm not going to say that, the GOP are Nazis at this point or whatever, but it certainly sounds very familiar to what happened in Germany, which is a bunch of citizens. Adolf Hitler gets a third of the vote, Nobody thought it could happen there. They kind of went along because they said he was going to solve the economy and fix inflation.
Yeah,
that's right. You can hear those sorts of things. And then, lo and behold, a few years later, they lost their democracy and they're all like, how'd that happen here? That's my worry. That is my worry. If obviously the price of a hamburger, the price of milk, the price of gas is concerning. But that is a short-term problem. The loss of a democracy will decimate everyone's freedom.
What is this man even trying to say? If you care about inflation, then you want democracy to die. You know what? Hitler breathed air. You know who else breathed air? Every single Republican. That means if you vote for them, you are voting for Nazis and our country will be destroyed. What if I told you that caring about inflation and noticing that prices of everything is going up doesn't make you a Nazi? Or that voting for Republicans doesn't make you a Nazi either? And it won't turn our country into a fascist nation. It makes you a concerned citizen that wants to see change. This annoys me because they are trying to scare you into thinking that you are a terrible person just for voting. Which that should be a threat to our democracy, right? Wrong. As once again, there is another article talking about how our democracy is at stake in this election. And if you don't vote for Democrats, we will all die and we'll never have a democracy again, blah, 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 blah. As Max Boot wrote on Twitter, if the current trend holds up, Republicans are likely to take over at least the House and quite possibly the Senate too, along with many state offices. This is how democracies die both at home and abroad. That's right, once again, if you vote for Republicans, then you are destroying democracy. Even though voting is something that you do democratically, which is a strange concept to me. How can it be undemocratic to vote in a democratic election? The first line of this article is gold, as it says, polls suggest that the economy and crime are among the most important issues for voters in the midterms. And as a result, Republicans are surging in the home stretch. He continued by saying, I think a lot of voters are missing the point. These elections are actually referendums on whether you favor the continuation of democracy in America. Once again, why do you care so much about the price of things? Why do you care about crime? Why do you care about the economy so much? Can't you see that our democracy is at stake? So you must vote for the Democrats that in turn are going to raise inflation by spending trillions and billions of dollars and increase the crime rate by releasing people from jail. But, at least you have a democracy. Give me a break. The Democrats will run around and say, our democracy is at stake and we have to save our democracy, while they pave the way for claiming that this next election is going to be rigged and stolen. This idea was being spread by Hillary Clinton, as we already talked about, and also Stacey Abrams. However, what if I told you that this idea of a rigged election, or the idea that there is voter suppression, is blowing up in Democrats' faces? If you go back in time, you will remember that there was a bill in Georgia that was supposed to help people vote. Stacey Abrams and other Democrats claimed that the law was Jim Crow 2.0, and Joe Biden came out and claimed that the bill made Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. What was that? Anyway, if you want to learn more about that bill, I made a video about it. Make sure to check it out after this episode. So this bill was ripped up and down, but it is actually working, and the voters aren't being suppressed. As according to Yahoo News, Georgia broke the turnout record for the first day of early voting in a midterm election. This turnout was double of 2018 and approached the whole total of early voting in 2020. This undermines Stacey Abrams' claims that Republicans are stealing the election by making it harder for people to vote. Apparently, it's easier to vote. The worst press secretary of all time was asked about this. And if Joe Biden was wrong for claiming that this new Georgia bill was going to suppress the vote and claiming that it made Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. What was that? Her response was that voter suppression and high turnout can take place at the same time, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. If more people are voting, then that doesn't mean that people are being turned away. It means that more people are going in and voting. I don't know, it doesn't make sense at all. I just think that they are all a bunch of liars that want to spread fear and propaganda. They want to say after this election, if Republicans win, that there was voter suppression. And maybe this time it was the Russians that tried to interfere with the election again. Or if you even think about voting for a Republican, then you are a terrible person that wants people to die. This is why I encourage you to vote. I don't care who you vote for, but I hope this video shows how the Democrats have tried to manipulate different people. And I hope it makes you lean more towards voting for the Republican side. But I'm not trying to pressure you. Please vote for whoever you want. All I am hoping for is after this election, after the Democrats get beat to a pulp, that they'll go on TV and start crying and claiming that democracy is dead. I will also be very excited to see how many people get banned from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for claiming that Republicans rigged the midterm elections, which probably won't happen. In the end, this election is going to be super close, and I am hoping for a red wave, but anything can happen. This may mean that I am wrong, and I am willing to admit when I am wrong. I will make a promise right now that if Republicans lose, I will not make a video about how Democrats cheated, but there might be a video about how recounts are going on because I don't think this election is going to be done in a day. It might take weeks. Next week, we will look at the results of the election, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Dockery Docket. And until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.